Hello, Ashley here from the Motherhood Circle. I'm a postpartum doula, mother of two. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 4.5-year-old daughters. And I'm here to share with you a little bit about my experience from having one child to two children. I've got a few ladies in my paid program who are going to have their second child, and I wanted to share some tips and tricks and also talk about something that a lot of mothers are unaware of when they have their second child. So let's start it off. So when I had my first child, I don't know. You don't know what to expect. When you have your first child, you don't know what to expect. You don't know what they're going to be like. You look at your friends and see what their experience is like. You read about all the problems that they can have. You expect the worst. You hope for the best. And then when your baby's born, your baby's born, and then you deal with whatever comes. When my first baby was born, and I was breastfeeding her after, when I was back in the room, the midwife who attended me looked at me and said, "So who's got the low patience personality?" And I said, "Is it you or your husband?" I said, "Well, that would be me." And she already could see her temperament, my daughter's temperament. My daughter is now 4.5 years old. She's highly sensitive, low patience. She literally gives something a shot one time. She can't get it the first time. She will start freaking out and will, give up, and it's too hard and everything's too hard. And I have the same sort of similar temperament or personality. I definitely have a tendency to, if something is hard, I can lose my patience, get frustrated, get angry. So it's, it is interesting how our babies are born just like us sometimes, nature and nurture. Anyways, it took a while for me to really see my daughter's personality and her temperaments, and it's only now that she's older, she's at 4.5 years old, that I can actually see, and I've learned a lot over the last couple of years. But it wasn't until my second daughter was born and I could start to see comparison, the differences in their temperaments and the differences in their personality. And so when my second daughter was born, I only could, my first daughter was a textbook baby. She was easygoing, in my opinion, in my experience. She was the light of my life. I was hoping that my next baby would be just as amazing as her and easygoing. And I was aware that I could have a baby that could have, reflux or colic or any issues that could make our journey more difficult. And I was hoping and praying that I had another wonderful experience, an easygoing experience, because I don't deal well with sleep deprivation or no sleep, and I had a really good textbook sleeper. So my next baby was born. I did have sleep deprivation issues, but only because she was a textbook newborn, waking up every couple of hours for a breastfeed. And this time I had a newborn baby to look after in the day, whereas when I had my first baby, I could sleep during the day. When people say sleep when the baby sleeps, sleep when the baby sleeps. Otherwise, you're going to be wrecked. Fortunately for me, I can sleep during the day. I can basically sleep whenever. So I would sleep with her. I would sleep with her during the day and catch up on my sleep while my husband was at work. And so when my next daughter was born, it was horrible. The first couple of months were extremely challenging and hard. I was effectively being woken up, broken sleep every hour, every 2 hours for a feed. And if it wasn't my newborn baby crying, it was my emotional 2-year-old toddler who desperately needed my love, affection, and attention. And I found that really challenging. Now, some really wonderful things about my firstborn child is that she loves sleeping in the car. So you might have seen in some movies where, in comedies, like parents are driving around the street trying to get their child to sleep in the car. Well, I never really had to do that with my firstborn, but we would go on really long drives. So with her, if she didn't get her sleep, her nap, as she got older, and she really needed to have like her 2 naps in the day once she got to like 6 months or whatever it was, 4 months, I realized and noticed that she was a real nightmare. So if she didn't get her sleep, she was like a wreck, like a real wreck. And she would scream for hours. I couldn't console her. I'd be holding her. She'd be crying. I'd be crying. It was really challenging because nobody likes to see their child crying. And so I always made sure that we didn't go out when she needed to have a sleep unless we were driving in the car for a long distance. So she would get a sleep, then we could get out at our destination and she would be perfectly happy and content and fine. There were times where we would go places, like to my in-laws' home or somewhere else, and she wouldn't sleep in the bassinet. We had like one of those pop-up portable bassinet things, and she wouldn't sleep in there. So she'd be okay during the day, but as soon as we got home at like 5 o'clock or whatever time it was, she would cry for like 2 hours. And it was really, really challenging and hard emotionally to see your child cry like that. But I couldn't handle it either because I could feel her pain as a sensitive person and also an empath myself. It was really challenging for me. And, you know, my husband and I would take turns if he was home. So we always stressed whenever anyone took our daughter for a couple of hours or something that, you know, she must get her sleep. And so we probably look like pedantic parents, over the top first time parents, didn't know what we were doing. We were constantly getting feedback from family and relatives saying, you know, we need to calm down. It's only one sleep. It's not going to matter. But they didn't realise, or they didn't see the damage that would happen afterwards, the aftermath that we would all have to go through as a family. So it used to make me really angry, especially because people have their own experiences with their own child and they think that they're like the perfect parent, or that applies to every single child afterwards. And don't get me wrong, I gave my fair share of bad advice to parents who had children who didn't sleep. You know, as a first-time mum who had a child that was sleeping really well, you know, I would say to my friend, oh, just do this. It works for my child. You know, obviously it's going to work for your child, just thinking that, you know, I had this and I didn't realise that it was just because my child liked it that way or responded to that technique or whatever it is what I was doing. But I was trying to be helpful, and people are always trying to be helpful and they think that they are being helpful, and often, unfortunately, they're just frustrating and making it unhelpful for the parent. So when my second baby was born, as she got older, well, from the time she was born, we would go for long drives because for 2 years, we'd been taking our daughter on long drives. I live on the Gold Coast. We were going to northern New South Wales, to the beach, like for long drives, like 2-hour drives. My husband and I were like having like time of our lives, music on, baby's sleeping, woohoo, we're free. You know, once we got to our destination, put the toddler baby in the pram. She was happy. We got a beautiful, happy girl who was like having the time of her life, and on the way home she'd sleep, and it was like perfect. And when our second baby was born, she never slept in the car. So you can just imagine, we had this toddler who needed her sleep, and if she didn't get it, she was an emotional wreck. And then we had this newborn baby whose little eyes were open like this and would scream and cry. As she got older, she's now 2.5 years old, and as she got older, she would sit in the car and just toddle her legs and look around. And if she missed her sleep, it wouldn't be a problem. She would just be happy all day. She might have a little meltdown, you know, a tiny little meltdown, but nothing like our other daughter who would be crying for like an hour or two because she didn't get sleep. So we could see instantly that was a huge difference in our children. And also it meant that we couldn't go on long drives anymore because she would eventually make too much noise for the toddler, and the toddler would wake up screaming because she couldn't handle the noise, and then we'd have 2 kids that were screaming. So we haven't really done long drives. Now that they're getting a lot older, we can do the long drives again because, you know, sleep's not a big deal. But even to this day, she's 2.5 years old, and she will only go to sleep in the car if she's totally wrecked, totally out of it, but she'll sit there and fight the sleep. Whereas my toddler, my 4.5-year-old, the minute we get in the car and we go for a drive over 10, 15 minutes, she's asleep. She won't sleep at home for me anymore, but she's asleep in the car because that's something that she loves. She falls asleep. She's always been like that. And my other daughter's not like that. We took a drive down to Sydney, and we decided we're going to leave about 10, 11 o'clock so that our children would sleep through the night. We didn't have any sleep, but, you know, we could handle that. And so we drove through the night, and my 4-year-old, what was she, 3.5 at the time, she just slept the whole night through, didn't wake up. She was sleeping. That was it. She was in the car. She was fine. And the other one, she went to sleep after a long time of fighting it. She eventually fell asleep. And then at one point we stopped off to get fuel. And then she was awake again for like literally 2 or 3 hours. We were telling her, go to sleep, and she was talking and she was trying to wake her sister up, and we were like, go to sleep, go to sleep. Anyways, she was happy as Larry though. There was no problems. And it was pretty interesting that it took her so long to go to sleep. We were worried that she wouldn't sleep at all in the car, which would have been a nightmare, but she did eventually go to sleep after a little while. But, she didn't go back to sleep till about 4 o'clock in the morning when the sun was up, so then we had to put towels up. And our second child's temperament, she's very boisterous and she's very tough. And so as a younger child, she pushes her big sister around and she's very bossy and, will tell you what she wants. And my older child is more sensitive, and so she will get very upset and she'll respond emotionally and she'll cry. And my younger daughter will laugh and think it's funny. She thinks everything's a joke. She's like a bit of a circus acrobat. She'll roll around, jump all over the furniture. And she doesn't like wearing dresses. And my other one loves wearing dresses, my 4-year-old. Loves all the girly dresses and stuff. My she's 2.5 years old now. She has to always have her baby. She loves having a baby with her. She gets attached to blankets and babies and teddy bears. And my 4-year-old didn't get attached to anything. She never had a blanket or a teddy bear or anything like that. And what was the other thing? Oh, my younger child is very calm. She's got more of my husband's temperament. So if she can't do something, she won't give up after the first try. She will continue to try doing it. So she will, she's being able to do things quicker than her sister because she will continually try to do them. Whereas my daughter, for instance, my firstborn, she didn't like doing tummy time and she would constantly scream her head off because she would get frustrated and her face would go beetroot red. And with breastfeeding my firstborn, she would, when the midwife told me about her temperament, it was because she was struggling with breastfeeding and her face would go bright red and she was really struggling with breastfeeding, and it made it a lot harder for me with the breastfeeding. And I was, and so it's interesting how temperaments really come into play with our baby. So connecting with our baby, getting to know their personality, learning to watch for their personality and see different things and stand by them regardless of what other people say. If you truly believe, like for the sleep thing, no one around us believed that, Rosie had issues with sleeping. If she didn't have a sleep, they didn't believe that they saw a happy little girl, she's so bubbly and so fun, but they didn't know that if she didn't get her sleep, she'd be a nightmare. They didn't trust us or believe us. So back yourself, know what's right for you and your baby, work around your baby, work around, some of the things that their personality brings, the extra challenges. And if you're having a second baby, know that your second baby is going to be a completely different person to your first baby. They're going to have different quirks and different things, different challenges, or different things that are, amazing that your first baby didn't have. In many ways, my second baby is so much easier than my first baby. Obviously, the driving thing isn't helpful. It's something that I definitely wish she would sleep in the car so we can go on long drives again. But if she misses her sleep, she's perfectly fine. She's still happy, and that is amazing. She's got so many wonderful little personality quirks and things that took me a while to realize and see. But I just expected she would come out and be like a little mini, my first daughter. So I was trying to get her to be the same. But I've learnt to love and appreciate all the differences that they have. And it's so interesting to see how different they are. You think, a lot of it has to do with your parenting, but a lot of it actually has to do with their personality and their temperament, how they respond to you, how they respond to certain situations, how they respond to different environments, what different needs that they need. It might even be certain foods that they don't like, or, they like to be held a different way. From birth, my second baby loved to be set up like this. And she would force herself as a newborn baby to sit up. And I think that was because she was having reflux. I think she was in some sort of discomfort. So she naturally was perking herself up so she wasn't feeling, the reflux or, coming up. And I thought, wow, this is different, because my last baby I was constantly holding like a newborn baby in my arms, like a little baby. And I thought, well, where's my little newborn baby? I got ripped off this time. But, she was telling me, I'm in a little bit of discomfort. This is how I want to be sat. So when I could listen to her cues, I could respond and make sure her bed was set up so that she was, up a little bit more, so that would help with the reflux. But she wasn't in like screaming in any pain or anything like that, but she was clearly in some sort of discomfort. So watching our babies' cues, connecting with our babies, discovering the little micro emotions on their face. When my first baby was born, I could see. I've got videos of myself talking to my baby, having conversations with my baby. I don't know what those micro expressions were saying now, because I'm used to looking after older children. But when I was in the thick of it with my newborn baby, I could read her face and I knew what was happening. I was so involved and connected that I was able to understand what was going on, even if maybe I was wrong at times. But it is about taking that time to learn. It doesn't mean it has to happen straight away. It may take months, it may take a year, it may take a while. But the more that we can connect in, listen to your baby, listen, watch the cues, notice, the cues for sleep or hunger, and start to learn, just like you would your partner. Their cues, when they're getting frustrated from a huff, whatever it is that they do, or, they might roll their eyes at you or look away while you're talking. When people are pissed off with you, upset with you or whatever, babies are the same. We all have the same sort of cues. It's just about learning, what you can get away with and what you can't get away with, and sticking to that, making it so much easier for yourself. Anyways, if you are having a second baby, or even if you're having your first baby, I hope that this video was helpful for you. Make sure that you share it with your friends who are pregnant, and let me know, about your experiences, or, what you're worried about if you are having a new baby, you're a first-time mum having your first baby. Anyways, I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will be back with another video soon. Thanks. Bye.